Good day, it's Tony Fortunato from the technology firm. Today we're going to talk about automating Microsoft's FTP client. This is going to be a nice quick um, video, but you're also going to get a few tips and tricks out of this one if you weren't familiar with it. So what am I talking about? So in the middle of troubleshooting exercise, I have to FTP to a server. So what I want to do is I want to automate this. So then I can either schedule it, run it from a batch file, have somebody else run it, that sort of thing. So automating anything is a huge plus, and I'm going to say a big positive when you're either baselining or troubleshooting in the whatever environment you happen to be working in. So why should I have to type all those various commands when I can simply automate it? And then the problem with typing all those commands is everybody's going to type at a different speed. Even you're going to type it twice at different speeds, and then there's typos and all that sort of thing. It really messes up the timings if you're trying to time how long it's going to take something to actually complete. So I've also used this tip when performing baseline measurements and upgrading network equipment after hours, and that's a huge benefit for me. So at 2 a.m. you have to upload a file to a switch or a router or whatever, and then you could just do that after hours. You can also script, copying it, making sure the file's not corrupted and all that kind of jazz. But it's just your first step into automation, which is again a big benefit. Now, the other thing about using the Microsoft FTP client is it's on every single computer, and unless you've taken it out, specifically, it's typically there by default. So in some cases I can't install software on people's machines, and this comes into play. So I can use the native Microsoft FTP client to do my testing or troubleshooting. So here's a list of all the FTP commands from the FTP client, and this is as of Windows 8. Every version of Windows you'll see some extra features or fewer options depending on the version you have. And one good example is since Windows 8 now we have this send and receive buffer size. So if you do understand what buffer size mean and window sizes, as of Windows 8 you can actually play with that as well. That's again, that's a big plus. So just take a quick look at it. FTP space dash question mark or dash help usually gives you this type of output as well. So most common types of FTP commands, again, this will vary depending on the FTP client you have, but there's a 99% chance that you support these basic commands. And these are what you're going to use when you actually FTP into a client and you're just prompted with that black screen, that console, that CLI. Then you would actually type open space and the host name, login, password. And then from there, things like hash, bin, get, mget, those types of things. These are all things you would type in. If you're not sure what commands you should use, if you ever just run Wireshark and you're running FTP to a client, from a client to a server, you can always look at the commands that came out in that session, and then you can just simply replicate that manually in your script. So here's a sample script. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to FTP acme.txt to my FTP server and give it a name called newfile.txt. The login is student, the password is password, and the script is going to be called script.txt, and it's going to look something like this. So of course there's no check marks obviously in there, that's just there to illustrate it. So open space server name, R2D2, student, right, because I'm logging in a student, password, password. So this is important, right? You're typing things in as you would type things in. So if you were to connect to a server, you'd be prompted for the login. You just type the actual login name. You don't type login space student, right? Just student. And that's kind of confusing because if you did do a capture with Wireshark, some of the command interpreters, you'll see login space student go over the wire. And in some cases, you might have to type that into your command interpreter. But in this case, using the Microsoft FTP, you do not. All right. So just open student password, hash bin, and then put acme.txt, new file.txt, and then by, you're done. So when you want to run the script, it's ftp-s colon and then script.txt. That's pretty well it. And then when you see it run, you'll see all the commands execute accordingly. If you wanted to, you can redirect this to a text file. Depending on the FTP client, you can turn on logging if you want to see this at some point. So it's entirely up to you how you want to use it past this point. But I'm telling you right now, just get into automation, right? I'm not asking you to write Python and Perl and all that kind of nonsense. This is built into Windows. Linux users, you've got Bash, you can play with Bash scripts as well, but you should get comfortable writing scripts because sooner or later you're going to want to automate something, test something, or do something after hours, and this is going to come into play. So that's it. As I said, it's going to be a nice short video, and it is. Hope that helped. Have a good day. Bye for now.